Hi, Gemini. Welcome to your June 2021 monthly forecast. And it's a busy one for your solar season. So let's jump right into it. First things first, Mercury retrograde has begun in your sign in the first house. So definitely expect a ton of wonkiness. Mercury retrograde is a time in which RE words prevail around the Mercury ruled themes of thinking and communicating. So definitely expect for some snafus, especially when it comes to technological communication. Make sure you're double checking texts. Make sure that if you're scrolling on your ex's Instagram feed, you're very careful about double liking. Make sure you're plugging in your phone charger, etc. More than anything, Mercury retrograde wants us to reevaluate, rethink, reconfigure how we go about thinking and communicating. And for it to be in your first house, which rules your sense of self, very much expect like a little bit of a restructuring around this time around that. Arguably, the most potent thing to be occurring is the eclipse on June 10th in your first house. This is a big shift or ushering in big shifts to how you navigate life and your sense of self. It could also affect physical appearance or vitality as well. So, very important to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to wellness, to be totally honest with you. More than anything, if there is a need to part with any aspect of your identity, if you're in the middle of a job change, if you're thinking about picking up something new or like giving up a hobby that you've been doing for several years, this is definitely the time to do so. The first eclipse, which would have occurred at the end of May, happened in the seventh house of partnership. So there could still be some ramifications from that in regards to either breakups or makeups around this time. Now, with Mercury retrograde also being a time in which ghosts from our past come back, you could definitely expect the potential of an ex or someone who would fit under seventh house themes of those one-on-one partnerships coming back from your past. Now, that won't 100% happen, but the potency is there. Also, if you are the one to trigger that and reach back out to someone, really be intentional about what you're seeking from them. I think being explicit and direct is so important when Mercury is retrograde in those periods. You know, from a positive end of the spectrum, Venus in Cancer will be in your second house of finances. So the hustle is real, and that's some good energy to be existing in the second house of finances. It also has to do with how we individuate as well. So there could be the potential of breaking out of some existing partnerships, given all that eclipse energy that I just referenced, and really individuating yourself. With Venus in Cancer, just in general, it is an energy that it's a placement for Venus in which the environment and the energy of the environment very much affects the native. So, is your living space conducive to you making that money, making that coin? And if not, what can you do to support that? Do you have a home office? Do you have the luxury of having a home office? Can you find a space that you really create as a work nook? That could be one thing. If you do still go into the office, is that space conducive to you really making that money? Is there some control you have over that environment to really be more productive or efficient at what you do when it comes to making money? And, you know, on top of that, the last thing that I want to say is that the second house from a modern lens definitely rules values and value systems. So it's a good time to do an inventory into that. When's a bad time, in my opinion? Cancer season starts on the 20th in your second house as well. Further kind of reinforcing that while the struggle may be real, the hustle is deep. And for you, this is a time in which you can really stomp the pavement in regards to making that money, or there is conducive energy around it. Like I mentioned, with Mercury being retrograde in your first house and the eclipses occurring along the first seventh axis, it's very important to be mindful of what you say, how you navigate life, and being willing to part with old aspects of yourself which maybe were true or maybe served you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, last year, that may not serve you anymore. This could also revolve around partnerships, given that it's the first seventh axis. The first house is I with myself, the seventh house is I with another, or I with another, I should say. All in all, to say June is a very busy month for you. I hope that it will just be from a very productive, positive lens. You will have Mars and Leo going into your third house, which rules communication more than any other house, especially from a modern lens. And Mars and Leo really kind of roars when it is threatened. So I once again want to remind you to be mindful of how you express yourself this month. Conflict is important, setting boundaries is based in love, as Jessica Lanyadoo says, but it's important to, you know, think how you go about that confrontation. It's Mercury retrograde, so very much what is said during this time can circle back to you, especially at the next retrograde. Wishing you the best of luck for June 2021.